I think we can start off now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. You're all set to go now. Extremely delighted to have you here. Many thanks for this amazing response. We had 250 plus registrations, many times more than what we had expected. We sincerely appreciate your love and trust. And it is because of you that this community has come together and is thriving by the day. And let me tell you that the sole purpose of this forum is to help you find solution in the hours of crisis. As you know, this is our second webinar in the series that we are conducting, and perhaps the most central to any organization. We're talking about impact of COVID on your core functions of sales, distribution, channel, and customer engagement. We also talked about demand and operation in our last webinar. Here we are focusing on sales, distribution, channel, and customer engagement. To answer your queries, we have the best experts in the industry who have slogged together for last maybe 10 or 15 days to get the answers for your questions. So ladies and gentlemen, the answers that you hear today are not impromptu responses, but are well thought and debated answers. And hopefully, even if you take 2 or 3 takeaways from here, they are likely to benefit you immensely. Now, without much delay, I would go to the distinguished panelists. To start with, I'd like to introduce Jamshed Dabu. Hi, Jamshed.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome, Jamshed. So Jamshed requires no introduction. He's the ex-CEO of Tata Trends Star Bazaar and had leadership positions in Titan Industries. He will share his insights on food and grocery and food and beverage businesses. The second panelist on our webinar today is Vikram Mahaldar. Welcome, Vikram.
Hi, Anand.
Now, Vikram is the man behind the success of long-cherished brand called OCM. It has survived for many, many decades, and Vikram has a lot to contribute in the thriving of this brand. He's the managing director of this company. Hi, Vikram. Welcome to the
Hello.
webinar.
Thank you, Anand.
Thank you. Welcome. And last but not the least, and the youngest, Puneet Khanna. Welcome to this webinar. So Puneet Khanna comes with a very mixed experience of a consultant, entrepreneur, and now running a footwear business of the apparel group, GCC Middle East business. He handles brands like Hush Puppies, Tommy Hilfiger, and many other international brands. And myself, ladies and gentlemen, I am Anil Rajpal, founder of oneconsultingfirm, which specializes in consulting-led performance improvement for retail, fashion, and consumer product business. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again. We are going to start off the panel discussion. There are very interesting questions which have come to us already. And I'm going to pose these questions on your behalf to the panelists. The questions which have come from participants, I'm going to name the participants: Sachin Juneja, Vikram Chatterjee, Ajay Kumar, Soumya, Hardik Jain, Krishna Mahapatra, and Somik Sudeep Mishra. All these gentlemen have already sent across questions to us. And I'm going to ask these questions in a sequence to the panelists. Okay. The first question, Jamshed, I'm going to pose to you. These are tough times. It's very difficult to predict what is going to happen. My first question is, what time frame are you looking at from current state of lockdown to restart to a recovery. Jamshed, can you hear me?
No.
Yeah. See, in my personal view, I think irrespective of when the formal lockdowns are announced or otherwise, we will have the similar kind of situation going on until at least end May.
In May.
I don't think, I don't see anything changing up to end May in any significant fashion. And even then in food retail also, I think it'll be the same. April and May will be sort of the same. It is just that we will get more efficient at doing things, but it will essentially remain the same. I see a very slow uptick and a slow release of the economy, as it were, over the next 2 months. That is June and July. And then from August onwards, it would be reasonably business as usual. And then just for Diwali, I think we would have come back to a reasonable normal, or at least a flat curve compared to last year. That's my view.
Okay. So this is food and grocery.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying August, September, October is the period where you're looking at reaching some level of sales.
Absolutely.
Gradually reaching to that level of sales. So Vikram, what's your take on the time frame going forward?
Yeah, good afternoon, Anil, Mr. Jamshed, Puneet, and the audience. Thank you for having me here and for your kind words while introducing me. You know, the question that you have posed is, everyone is trying to figure an answer. So nobody can be definitive. But my belief is, besides what the government is trying to open, there could be a partial release of some districts in April 20th. But barring that, I think for all practical purposes, I think the lockdown will for surely continue till middle of May. And then from middle of May to middle of June, the things can restart in phases. And then from middle of June to say middle of August, you could have more opening up, like Jamshed said. And then post August 15th only, you will have a recovery where all manufacturing units are working, all the retail outlets are on, and the supply chain issues are minimal. So you can't see a full return to normal before middle of August. So yeah, you will be then looking at the winter season and the marriage and the festival season only where sales would catch up.
Okay, thank you. So Puneet, from your standpoint, you are based out of GCC, Dubai.
Correct.
And, where do you think your time patterns are looking like?
Sure. So I'll speak in the context of GCC. So our timelines are slightly different. I think the way it may be back home in India. Largely the reason being because this region is dependent very heavily on transit population. The tourists and the transiting population is a very big part of the market here. And retail, literally 40% of retail is driven by that population. Given the fact that we're in a lockdown situation and we don't see that population coming in, at least in the near future, we are writing that part of the business off. In terms of, I think recovery for this region would probably take slightly longer. Our sense is that May we have written off so far. We're writing off May. We don't see too much of action happening in all of May. June, July action will pick up. We think it'll be about 40% of where it ideally is. And then July, and then August, September, probably 50-60%. In the last quarter of the year, of the calendar year, October till December, we think things will start to stabilize. I think we'll start seeing some flat kind of growth compared to last year. I think we'll reach that level. So last quarter is when we think things will start to get back to normal in this region.
Okay. So all of you are saying is that sometimes during September onwards is where you would begin to see some kind of normalcy compared to the last year.
Yeah.
So Vikram, my question to you is that what kind of demand do you see, the sales do you see in the coming months before the recovery take place? And my request is if you can elaborate in the phases like lockdown, restart, then last is towards the recovery stage. So how do you see the percentage compared to last year, what is the demand you are expecting? You are in, just to tell to the audience that you belong to apparel category.
Yeah, clothing and so
you
textile
belong
and apparel. You see,
and
being a
apparel.
discretionary product,
Yes.
it's not an essential product, and so I think in this phase of lockdown, which
Yes.
is till May 15th, sales will be negligible. There will hardly be any sales. And in the restart phase, which I talked about, say May 15th to June 15th, you could see 30 to 50% of sales of last year, just resuming and because there could be some marriages happening, even if in some parts of Bihar, UP, Maharashtra, even if they are with limited number of people, there could be some gifting in that segment. So small 30 to 50% of sales could happen in this phase. And in the more opening up phase, which we said was from say middle of June to middle of August, you could have say 60 to 75% of sales of previous year. And when we hit recovery, which is post mid-August and into September, I think you can have a sale of 80% to 110%, depending on how well we have controlled COVID or how much we have been able to conquer.
Okay. Got it. So you're expecting 80 to 100% of your previous year's sales by, let's say, September onwards.
Correct. So September, say mid-August or September to March is generally 70% of your value sales in this category.
Right.
So by value wise, the losses will be lesser, but yeah, volume wise, it could be more. But still, I mean, you could see on the whole, you could see a 15% decline over last year for sure, as of now.
But even that is a very very positive sign if you're saying that you are able to recover by August, September, given there is a lot of pessimism in the market. So you're expecting a growth level to reach there.
Has to be. I mean, you have to see at countries like China, who have.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So they are also recovering. So, I mean, every phase has to end. So it's not going that we are going to continue in this. Right now, I know it seems optimistic, but for sure things will recover. And a 15-20% decline in a category in a single year is by no means less. It's a big decline. And typically such categories, see a 4-5% at max decline in the worst years, or even a 5-7-8% growth. So typically that's how they are. They're very stable categories. So 20% decline. Yeah.
Sorry. What I was saying was that today we are sitting at 0. So it becomes any number more than 0.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slightly difficult target these days. But Jamshed, you must be very, very more optimistic compared to other categories because you have led companies in food and grocery business, which is essential commodity or essential category. So what's your take?
See, I tell you, I've done a bit of asking around as to finally what people are at. So in stores which are operating, and I'm talking about modern trade stores, I think in the stores which are operating and open, they are at around 85 to 90% of last year's level. And that is because the demand is very high, though limited in terms of SKUs. But store timing, social distancing, etc., prevents the entire demand to be met. And then there are restrictions for people to come out too. But if you take the closed stores, that is the stores which are shut down, then average companies would be at around 65 to 70% of what they were doing last year. And this is only in food. Of course, if they had allied products like apparel and all, that's of course 0. But I'm only talking about food. I think that from a food point of view, the demand patterns won't change much. Consumer behavior will change, but demand pattern won't change much. So as the lockdown eases and it becomes easier for customers to access, easier for suppliers to access. That's where we are at. And easier to get labor, I think it will start coming back up. And I see that by September, it should be back to normal. In fact, I would anticipate a bit of growth in the second half of the year. In food retail, I think there'll be a bit of growth because I think people will certainly had a cash crunch, would have postponed a lot of their big expenses. And that would leave a little more cash on hand to indulge in the smaller aspects of consumer day-to-day consumption,
Sure.
I do certainly feel that large ticket items will get postponed and therefore smaller ticket items, people will indulge. I think the festive season should not be that bad. Provided social distancing does not become a complete constraint. I mean, that's the key.
Got it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would request you can always post questions in the chat box. We've always maintained that the people sitting in audience are equal when it comes to the knowledge, expertise, and it's the gurus speaking to gurus. So please engage as much as possible here. This is a forum for all of us, meant for creating solution for all of us. So I think with that answer, Jamshed, on the optimism and the revival of the food sector in FNG, sometimes in September, October or November, we can sort of put any month out there. So what do you think the customer behavior is likely to be? I mean, do you see that there will be certain permanent changes in the consumer behavior? I'm coming from the fact that there are hypotheses, not studies, which are indicating that consumers are settling for less now, and perhaps that becomes a permanent change in their behavior. How do you see FNG evolving?
Yeah, I think consumers have experienced sort of tone down in their consumption without any sort of major effects. So I do see maybe some indulgent categories getting affected, but in the main, Indians shop in a reasonably narrow basket as far as food is concerned. So in the main, I don't think that from a product selection point of view or category selection point of view, there'll be much of a swing. What will certainly happen is that consumers will be looking at hygiene, health, and authenticity of product with a totally different lens. In India, up to now, we've been rather tolerant about these things when it comes to shopping, even for food. But I think that's going to change. I think consumers have become more aware, they become more conscious, they understand these things a lot better. And it is that consciousness which will drive some part of consumer behavior to move towards shops which are more sort of hygienic. And when I say hygienic, I don't mean only dirty shops or clean shops, but even the employees, the way they are turned out, the way they are groomed, etc., which was not that important in the Indian context till date, will start becoming important, much like it is in the Western world. I also see that people will go for more and more authentic brands, because they also want some comfort that there is no problem in the entire supply chain.
Sorry, I could hear you.
And because they may want more comfort that there is hygiene in the entire supply chain. So decent brands will be okay, but if you're a tertiary brand and you were fighting on price, that kind of brand may come under pressure because customers will now begin to doubt the source of supply, because they become a lot more aware about these things, with this current crisis. So I think it is in these areas that there will be certain pressure. And one more thing that consumers will not want to do is they will not want to go to crowded stores. So these, big sale events that we typically hold and where people are jostling with each other and shoving and pushing, I think that behavior, according to me, will change, which means retailers will have to change accordingly to cater to much faster and much more sort of easier shopping. That has happened.
So what you're saying, Jamshed, is the end of sale, what has become norm of selling or heavy promotion-driven selling is perhaps may not happen, at least
in the foreseeable future. Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. So that's a change which may happen because a lot of sale currently happens during those last 2 or 3 days or end of season. So that's a big change which you're seeing.
Now, see, for example, also a lot of loose product will get into
Okay.
That's the other thing that will happen. Now, if you were to go to a shop today, you wouldn't buy loose staples, would you? Because it is touched and felt, and and people will get a lot more conscious about these things.
Okay. So coming to Vikram yourself, how do you see apparel shopping behavior, consumption behavior changing?
See, on the premise that health and safety and hygiene will be a concern for people in short to medium term, I think there will be more virtual engagement, and that's for sure. And also there will be a lot of relationship-based buying through traditional stores. So mostly, people buy fabrics and apparels from discount stores. They will see more discounts. But I think now it will be more loyalty-based also, and stores they know who are following the precautions of, say, distancing or sanitization, or the people whom they know. There's that relationship thing there. I think that will come up, number one. Number two, I think the awareness of the product will increase for this category. Right now, you must be seeing everybody has become a microbiologist these days. So everybody is knowing about the virus. So all of a sudden, people have started, getting into the details of the product, which they were missing till now in the clothing category. At max, they know a cotton shirt or a cotton t-shirt. But for example, wool is the best fiber to make a suit. 90% of the suits that you see right now are made from polyester viscose fabrics, which are not sustainable fibers. So I think the difference between natural fibers, man-made fibers, sustainable fibers, because of concern for the environment, will come in, and people will start choosing their merchandise on the basis of the product knowledge also. That's the second thing. And third, I think these made in India goods, all of a sudden, we have seen that there's this messages going on that we should buy more made in India. I think this will catch up for two reasons. One, obviously, is the customer choice, but I think also for the supply chain issues. Both China and Italy, they are the major suppliers of fashion items. Right. China being the mass producer, and Italy is the fashion capital, so all the luxury items come from there. So both these zones are affected, and therefore, even if they recover early, the importers here, they will not be able to take a call on or to make a financial investment right now, because they are not aware of how the situation is going to unfold in India. And when it improves in India, say a couple of months, 3 months, when it opens, the turnaround time is so high, for these customized products, that they will not be able to hit the products this season. So both supply chain as well as customer choice, and this I think will reduce the impact on domestic brands and manufacturers. That's going to be a positive side of it. So these 2-3 things come to my mind, on how the engagements will change.
And in contrast to what Jamshed was saying, given that you are, and this is a question which is coming from a gentleman here, is that Vipul Rastogi is saying that, don't you see that discounts will become more, given, let's say, you are obviously held up with a lot of inventory.
Absolutely.
There's an end date.
See, what has happened is the summer merchandise in the stores has been idle. And now you are going to get winter merchandise somewhere in August or September. So to clear the summer merchandise and to stay on the healthier side of the cash flows, everybody is looking at cash right now. So definitely in near term, you can see very heavy discounting in those stores. But these measures, related to sanitization and the other social distancing will be critical even to achieve sales in those discounted stores.
Okay, got it. So obviously, I think there are different channels you may have to experiment. Maybe direct to consumer will be something you may explore.
Absolutely. That's going to come up, and the contactless packaging is,
I think
is talking about that. So
yes. So figure out that is going to radically change the way you are going to sell to your customers for sure. And we come to that part in a different question. So Puneet, you were sharing a very interesting example of your market. Bahrain opened up, and there were changes in the consumer behaviors you were seeing, and so you are in a way you are ahead of India, that you have opened up some part of your operation. So what is the changes you are seeing, and what do you see going forward in the consumer behavior? Footwear is your category, so I just want to qualify there.
Sure. So some of our markets have started to open up. As you said, Bahrain is partially open. So one interesting thing that we've seen is that always traditionally, this market has always been a very service oriented market, on the retail side. But this time when the customers came back to the stores, we realized that the trend was moving more towards self service, so they were looking for less engagement with the sales staff,
Okay.
let's say, so they were wanting more shopping to be done at their end. So I think which brings back that belief that, perhaps the market is going to move once things open up, is going to move to a low touch economy, a low touch market. So that's an interesting observation that we had, once things started opening up.
Sure. So Puneet, I think just a very observation was that just before COVID, we were doing a research and for an apparel company, and we realized that the personalization was getting more and more in the stores, in the e-commerce channels, etc. We were seeing a lot, and retailers were differentiating themselves basis the kind of support they can offer on the shop. So let's say some people were offering one person responsible as a manager for your shopping. It's a very strong kind of relationship kind of marketing was selling, which obviously is going to get impacted maybe to some extent going forward. And the brands will have to find out solution to give personalized solution to the customers as we move forward. So we'll talk about the operations aspect also, but going by what Puneet said that they don't want perhaps the service element. They want to shop on their own with maintaining a distance of maybe 2 meters social distancing.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So I think shifting from the consumer behavior, and all of you are thinking that the consumer will come back, even if a difficult category like textile and apparel, they will come back eventually, forgetting what has happened, and maybe they come back sometimes in August, September, October that we talked about. Now, how do they come back is a question which everybody is asking. Vikram Chatterjee asked a question that, do you see e-com or channel shift happening to the way the consumer are shopping? So there are channels like your store, direct selling, e-commerce. How do you see it evolving in the next few months time frame from lockdown to recovery stage? Jamshed, your start, from your standpoint, food and grocery.
I think the normal instinct would be to say that e-commerce will gain traction because of what we're experiencing. But unfortunately, what has happened is that in this current crisis, e-commerce companies have not necessarily stood up to the test because of various reasons and constraints that they've had. And in fact, people have gravitated more to the kirana. So it is a lost opportunity at this point in time that and this is not only the big e-commerce players, even the smaller e-commerce players have not been able to respond. I think consumers will look for multi options from any retailer. They would like to interact with retailers who are truly omni-channel. And when I say omni-channel, doesn't mean you have to have a platform. A kirana next to you is also omni-channel. If he does home delivery, takes the order on WhatsApp, etc., etc. And the consumers tomorrow will be looking for a lot more of delivery choices than they are looking for today. They would like to have a lot more ease of access to product and to service, and like to make those choices. It is not that they would like to have things like instant delivery and that kind of stuff. That's not the efficiency we are now talking about. It's just that, look, I want ease of choices. So if I want to go to a shop to browse, I don't want to spend time shopping on essentials. So you find another way of sending me the essentials. I'll go for just to buy all the sort of more luxury items or the more top-up items. Then shops will have to cater to that. Some people may want to go and shop on their own, but they don't want to stand in a queue anymore. They don't want to have all this contact. They want to shop, finish and leave the shop. And you've got to figure out how to reach the product to me. And consumers will pay for that service, but they would like to have that service. And I see that as a movement, as opposed to just moving from physical to e-channel or e-channel to physical. It will now be dependent on, from retailer to retailer, how much of this 360-degree service they are able to offer, for which people might be willing to pay a slightly higher price.
Very interesting point, Jamshed. Thank you. What you're saying is that 360-degree access to consumer would become important, and consumers are willing to pay premium for that. Okay, got it. What's your take, Vikram, on this e-channel? And do you see that the tier 2, tier 3 cities are also likely to be benefited given if at all there is a thirst on e-commerce?
See, fashion even today contributes a very decent percent of the e-com pie. And I think besides, say, jewelry, watches, it's luxury product and entry-level casual products, sportswear, leisure wear, that is really being the bigger part of the pie. And it is growing in tier 1 as well as tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Mm-hmm.
So that is it. But custom clothing, formal wear, the sales of premium brands still is not very high. Is not very high in the e-commerce category. But I think that is now going to grow for sure. And e-channels could also be used to, say, ease sales for custom clothing. Maybe you could book an appointment with a tailor online and then you could go to the store as well. So all of that is possible. But I still believe that in the near 3 to 5 year horizon, the traditional sales are going to dominate the pie. Even still, the traditional business only will dominate.
Okay.
This category.
So you're putting your money on the traditional stores.
Yeah, but e-com will grow, and therefore everybody will need to have a platform, e-com, both your own brand store or maybe a multi-brand through these multi-brand portals. You need to have your presence there for sure. That will need to improve.
Got it clear to us that way. And how do you see the trajectory moving in terms of percentage sales if you have to talk about yourself?
I think in lockdown, it's anyway going to be, although they are opening the non-essential items also, online from 20th of April. But I don't think much traction happening on the apparel side till in the lockdown phase. So I'm saying negligible sales. And in the restart phase, first month or so, maybe you could see the 20-25% sales happening on the e-com sites because stores will not be opening much. And in the more opening up phase, that could come down slightly to 20%. But finally, in the recovery phase for the clothing category, I think it's settling down at 10-12% only.
So eventually, you're saying 10 to 12% of the sales will come from e-commerce.
Yes. Okay,
so that's a very sort of conservative number. But you're saying that, as you said, your view is that traditional stores.
Yeah, and I'm talking about primarily, say, the formal wear, because this active wear, leisure wear, sports wear category, or they're already there and they're doing decent numbers.
Sure. Got it. So, Puneet, what's your take? E-channel in GCC for your category? Or the channels, how do you see it happening?
Yeah, so for us, actually, e-com has been phenomenal. So we've it's been amazing these past 40 days. What we've witnessed on e-com, there was already a gradual shift happening towards e-com. E-com here, I would say, is 2 stages behind India. But there was a gradual shift happening. But now these past 40 days, I'll give you a sense, our sales have multiplied 6.5 times. So we have witnessed a 6.5 times growth over the past 40 days. On a run rate basis on e-com. So e-com for us in this market has been doing very, very well. I think of course, retail will always remain, not to say that retail will die out, but I think eventually what's going to happen is that the pie is going to increase. I think the overall spending is just going to increase. And the penetration, of course, of e-com is going to go up. Our sense is that once things start opening up, e-com, a lot of players, a lot of retailers in this region were not really taking very, very seriously. Now they've started to look at this channel as a very serious channel, and when things open up, they'll have another channel, with them to cater to. So for us, footwear in any case has always been a e-com friendly category. It's always been a very dominant category on e-com. So within that category, we are seeing some very, very good growth.
Just to stay on that, I mean, do you think this is likely to be permanent stay there, a channel shift, or is it?
One thing I believe in, but I've witnessed this throughout my career, is that consumers get used to certain things. Consumers get habitual to certain things. Now you're in a situation where you're putting consumers habitual by default, by force, to a certain trend, to a certain trait. My sense is that that trait is likely to continue. The consumers are going to get used to it, and eventually it will become a habit. People will start seeing the convenience which is there out of e-com, out of online shopping. People will start enjoying the kind of discounts that they get, the kind of offers that they get online vis-a-vis, let's say, offline. So I think somewhere we're putting in a habit in the consumer, and that habit is likely to stay.
Got it.
And we've seen it in India, right? We've seen it in India. We've seen how it really penetrated, how it just moved completely so fast. So
good. Thanks, Puneet. Got it. I think so you were saying that there will be a shift towards e-commerce for sure.
100%.
And Vikram, coming back to you, very interesting question which people are asking is the marketing. What do you do? I mean, the customers, should you stop marketing in these times of lockdown? Should you, because revenue is zero at this moment. So what is the direction one should take in marketing? And we understand that revenues are not there. So brands may be pushed to cut corners out there.
See, one thing is for sure, and everybody has to believe in it, that we are going to come out of it. I mean, it's not that we are going to continue in this. So we're going to come out of it. And how we react now is going to define how we are remembered down the line,
Sure.
as I was saying to you. So I think, but yes, we have to be very cautious on the spends also. So maybe in the lockdown phase, you could use your social media like WhatsApp, your Facebook, Instagram, to maybe show the awareness, create awareness about the disease through humor, through motivational messages, so that you are in touch with your customer. And look for an ATL bargain, because the media, I think there are good options available there if you are looking. And also, there will be limited people who are advertising. So you could that's an aggressive stand that you could take, and that is possible. I mean, depending on how management see it. So that's for the lockdown phase. In the restart phase, I think innovation will be the key. Every company will have to think very hard on innovation and come up with products and advertise those products which are reliable and with a lot of transparency that they need to be shown to the customers. And then finally, in the recovery phase, it will be business as normal. Product extension, channel expansion will be the key. And a lot of digital marketing will be looked at more seriously, being cost effective. I think that will be looked at more seriously. And as I was telling you, health and hygiene being important. So all the campaigns need to, subtly carve that need for being, healthy and safe, which is in the customer's mind. That needs to be subtly there, carved in the ad campaigns.
Got it. So you're saying you stand by your customers. The consumers are likely to come back sooner or later. I mean, later is not far away. We're talking about maybe before August. So therefore, continuous communication becomes very, very important.
Absolutely. And I think, it's also a chance for, people who are maybe number 2, number 3 in the categories which we are servicing. And I think everybody is going to come to almost the same ground. Yes, they have somehow advantage, some are at a disadvantage. But I think people who were at an advantage will comparatively be at a lesser advantage to, say, number 2 and number 3 players. And if those 2 and 3 players, react more aggressively, there's a chance that they could gain more market share.
So you're saying disparity will get reduced between the leaders and the followers. That's a very interesting
possible. Yes.
You're making. So there is a chance that followers may topple the leaders.
If not topple, take more market share.
Okay, got it. Very interesting point. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, we are over 100 people a moment before. So there is a moment for us to celebrate that the 100 people have joined this webinar. So I think let's give a round of clap to all of us that we are here. Thank you so much. I just want to ask the audience at this moment, are they feeling all right? They're feeling refreshed and they're getting what they wanted? If you're getting what you wanted, just type yes, why, or else no. Those choices are open to you. Okay, very nice. Keep going.
you're making sure they don't sleep.
Yes, of course. That's right. So we're getting really good, great, yes, yes, sure, yes. So I think there's a lot of encouragement from the audience, and I like to convey my thanks. Very, very grateful to them for being here. And just be assured that we are putting a huge amount of effort to get you the answers during the time of crisis. So at the same time, I would also like to apologize to a lot of audience that we are not able to take all the questions given the time constraints, but do keep writing to us. We will get back to you personally in case we are not able to answer today. Jamshed, there is a request from Dr. Pankaj Agarwal that you have to be a little louder.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Tell him I'm a soft-spoken person, Mr.
Okay. Who isn't now? The question comes. But coming to a very important point, let's say, the customers are coming back. They're going to be fully in operational by August, September. But still, social distancing is going to be norm. Hygiene is going to play a very important role. So, Vikram, to you, what sort of changes do you think in your operations you have to make sure that the customers are safe? Especially your learnings from China and other countries which are ahead of the game. We would like to understand from you.
Yeah. See, I mean, I'll talk both for the customers and the employees of the organization as well. There's a government guideline which has come up that, if you want to open your factories, these are the steps that need to be followed. And these steps are very similar to what were issued in China. So a few of those steps are, which you might be seeing being, already, in apartments, they've started doing a few of those. So everybody who is entering a premise, whether that's a store or that's your factory premise, that's your office, you need to check the temperature of every person. Right. And even the customer tomorrow who is entering. Right. And everybody has to use a mask. Some people, for example, we have an on-site doctor and the canteen employees, for example, they will be wearing a PPE equipment because they will be coming in touch with a lot of people. Sanitization will be there right from the entrance. Everybody will be properly sanitized. They will sanitize their hands through an alcohol-based sanitizer. There will be sanitization in washrooms, in buildings, in factories, everywhere. Social distancing. So there are two workers right from the entrance to the factory or in the store. There has to be a gap of at least 6 feet. That's what's being recommended. The floor as well as the machines need to be sanitized at a frequent intervals, say maybe once in a day. The sales team travel will be reduced. It's not that, till now they were like traveling 20 days a month, even for engagement and relationship building. Now it will be only necessary travels when the lockdown, ends. So both domestic and international travel will be limited. All the incoming raw materials that that has to be sanitized. It's a government guideline which has been issued in the way in which it needs to be sanitized before it comes to the factories. And similarly in the stores, all of these things have to be maintained at the stores also, which will be selling fabrics once they open. And more importantly, the companies have to form a team which will put together an SOP, which will be operational for that particular premise. And those SOPs it will be the job of that team to implement them and monitor them that they are being closely followed. So these are the steps, and China did exactly the same. I mean, I was just talking a couple of days back to the head of a company called Jiangyin Nikki Worsted Spinning Company. So that's a pretty decent size company. It makes worsted woolen yarns. And they are, like, to give you a geographical location, they are around 720 kilometers from Wuhan. They are towards northwest of China in a city, it's called the Wuxi city. And so the good thing in China is that they were able to control this pandemic in a certain zone. So maybe the damage which was done in Wuhan was not as much even in 700 kilometers down the line. So, but there were cases similar to what we are seeing in India, in Wuxi. So on 22nd January, they close for a Chinese New Year. They have holidays for like 8-9 days till 31st January. And that is when the government, they extended the lockdown of this factory for 15 more days. So for 15th February till 15th February, it was shut. 15th February, they were given a guideline very similar to what I said. And from 15th February to 25th of March, they kept following this. And 25th March onwards, it's business as normal. So government is encouraging everybody to come to office, to have party in the evening, to shop, to consume. And that's what, they are doing. But in large parts of China, including Wuhan, it was a 2-month lockdown. But in this part, it apparently was only 21 days. So that's a good sign. And they're saying that hardly any infections are coming up from that city. We talked about Korea. So Korea, is also, it's a model in its own self, because they have created a model wherein without lockdown, they have been able to contain infections by a very high level of testing and very extensive social distancing. That social distancing is right now on till 19th of April, but the infections are less than maybe 100 a day. It's close to 50 also on some days they have had it from past few days. And just on this Wednesday, many of us may not be aware, they had an election. A general election was there on Wednesday, and the highest turnout from last 28 years was there. So it was a 66.2% turnout. And the ruling party, which was the Democratic Party, they won the elections, and which shows the faith of people in what the government did. And so all is not that bad. Everybody, we are passing through that curve. We are a bit late on that curve, but still things are a lot in control. And I'm sure it's going to be fine, and we're going to come out of it very strongly, very soon.
So there is very heartening news which you're sharing, that Korea had an election.
Yeah, it was on Wednesday.
Turnout was higher than before.
Yeah.
And so there is a change in, or let's say whatever the change in government is likely to take place, it may take place as well.
So the same government, the ruling party only won.
Oh, won. They won.
Yeah, because of, whatever they were doing to control COVID. So people have actually, they have appreciated it. So they, I think, won around 180 out of 300 seats they won.
Okay. So wonderful. So ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, I'd like to take a slight amount of deviation. There is a webinar happening on 24th April. Like I said, we are covering various functions of a retail consumer product fashion company. We started with demand and operation. Now we are doing sales, distribution, and customer engagement. The third in the series, which is even more exciting, is supply chain impact, the COVID impact on supply chain. Specifically, we're talking about building supply chain for catering to the e-channel, because e-channel, as all of us have seen, the speakers have insisted that there will be a shift towards e-channel for social distancing during lockdown, and the companies who were not ready earlier will have to get ready, especially, for example, the seasonal business, air conditioners and the Cokes of the world, the colas of the world, etc., etc. If they have to do something, the e-channel is very important, and there the supply chain issues that we are talking 24th April. So if you want, there is a link flashing there. You may like to join us, continue this dialogue. And we have some very, very star speakers with us. Tanushri, the CFO, the most awarded CFO from Udaan, which is the distribution, the modern distribution company in the country, maybe valuation of $2 billion. I don't remember the exact numbers. She's going to be there talking about what distribution changes will take place. The other gentleman who is equally capable and a star person in the digital era, having maybe 15 years experience in digital, Deepak Taneja is going to be there from LG Electronics. So gentlemen and ladies, you may like to join us there. And now again, coming back to the topic. So Sanjay, there is a very interesting question which is perhaps has been asked several times from Ajit Joshi, our colleague, our ex-friend.
Yeah, I was wondering, is it the same Ajit Joshi? Ajit, how are you?
Ajit, hi Ajit, how are you? Ajit, ladies and gentlemen, is the ex-CEO of Chroma, which is one of the first chains in India to launch the consumer durable business. Now, he was also the leader position in Urban Ledger. So his question to Jamshed is that what will happen to malls? Malls and real estate developers given the footfalls are likely to fall down?
Yeah, I think that actually they are going to face a serious challenge. Also because of the fact that many malls have up to now not taken any accountability of retailer performance. Malls are landlords, they're there, they do some general activities, and but I think that they're not, they don't have full accountability of retailer performance. I mean, and I think that's going to change. The equation today between malls and retailers, the retailers are disunited and the malls are a single entity. I think the retailers and malls will start getting together a lot more and start looking at common agendas and programs along with the malls. Currently, of course, there is a lot of back and forth going on rental reduction or rental waiver. And this is the true testing time of the relationship. I think malls which were strident and are going to take a rigid stand are certainly going to find the going a little more difficult with retailers when things start improving. But malls which are going to be much more accommodating of current retailer requests will find that when things start changing, the retailers will pool in together to make sure that the mall succeeds. And to my mind, if that does not happen, malls will certainly come under pressure because the general footfall, the food courts, the cinemas, etc., is going to come under some severe pressure. So Ajit is absolutely right. It's one of the more vulnerable categories, as it were, as an outcome of this, because it's purely physical. Having said that, as was also pointed out in our earlier chat, malls will also have to get digital a lot more. And I think we have a good example from the GCC, which we can talk about. But I think malls will also start having to get much more tech savvy and much more digital to keep in pace. I think they've been a bit behind on all this because, well, the rental has been coming in. And now that has changed.
Got it. So I think that's a good point. The mall coming under pressure and collaboration between the two entities is the way forward.
I'd just like to add one thing here.
Puneet can add on that.
A very quick, Puneet, we will get back on more questions.
So interestingly, what we've seen here is as Jamshedji was pointing out, so the landlords, mall developers have started becoming very active here. So a lot of the mall developers, for example, Dubai Mall has launched its own platform, marketplace platform, and now hosting all the retailers online, extensively marketing it. Similarly is the case with Mall of Emirates and quite a lot of other mall developers. So that's a very interesting move that we have seen from their end. It's a very, very proactive move. Having said that, yes, it is the same scenario. They are under a lot of pressure right now. It's moving now onto a very collaborative kind of an approach between retailers and landlords. Vis-a-vis a one-to-one kind of an approach has become much more collaborative. Yes, the model is shifting now to a revenue share model. But what was very interesting here is that mall developers have also started taking e-com online, the digital approach, in this process. So that was very interesting.
So revenue share, e-commerce for mall developers, and also you mentioned that government is playing some role. So what was that? I mean, if you can tell us.
So government is playing a proactive role here. Government is playing a very proactive role in terms of containing and negotiating rentals here on behalf of between the retailers and the landlords. The government is playing a very proactive role in other aspects also. For example, in a lot of the GCC countries, we've heard for their nationals, the government has come out with a policy to say that they are going to take care of the store level employees and the salaries, a 3-month salary will be paid out to them so that there is no disruption in the market, particularly with the smaller retailers who are more susceptible. So the government is playing quite a bit of a proactive role in that respect here.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, that's a huge support coming in from the So, gentlemen, ladies, we are coming to almost an end to this. We started 5 minutes late. If you want, we can continue for maybe another 10 minutes or 15 minutes, depending on your permission. So question goes back to you. Would you like to continue for another 10 minutes? We conclude, we summarize, we add some more questions. Yes. So we want more responses before we see that a majority has been reached in their majority, if not absolute. There is still democracy prevailing in India. So go on. Yes, please. A lot of people are saying, yes, I assume that on behalf of everybody. Speakers, I request if you can stay back. I know everybody's time is important.
Sure.
So there is a question, Jamshed, specifically for you, which has come from, I'll talk about the gentleman name also, but F&B business. It's a startup, and they are now stuck because there's no business happening on F&B side. This is a product, not a service, F&B product.
Yeah.
And they are asking that how do we maintain our expenses? How do we do that, given we are a startup, etc.? What should be our strategy going forward? Other question, the part B is with that, should they go to third party for manufacturing? Should they keep it for themselves? Your question.
So can I have the name of the person asking the question?
I'll tell you. You just carry on. I would tell you the name of the gentleman is. You carry on with the answer. He's called Sudeep.
So Sudeep, I can answer this much sharper, of course, if I knew what F&B business you are in. But having said that, it is a difficult time, no doubt, and it depends on the manner in which you have to manage the business. Depends on how much of runway you have with the cash. If you have a runway of only if you have a runway for the next 3 to 4 months, then my suggestion would be, at this point in time, if there is no business, you should cut down on the flab, but keep the muscle. The last thing you want to do as a startup is to cut down on your muscle. So to the extent possible, of course, cut down on the flab. Please get rid of everything which is non-essential. Please get anything. You can get rid of any resource which can be easily available once things open up. But if there is a resource which is going to be very difficult to get once things open up, for example, you've got a very good location, and when things open up, if you give up the location today, when things open up, you're not going to get it back. You have to hold on to that till the very end. That was number one. Number two, if there's any opportunity for you to generate cash, even if it means compromising on your brand a little, compromising on various other business principles, I don't mean ethical compromise, I mean business compromises, I think you should just do it. Right now, cash is king. And if there is any source in which you can pivot your F&B business, supplying to people who are doing charity, going on to Swiggy if you have to, whatever it may be, I think you should not shut out any possibility to generate cash. So generate cash, cut down on anything which is non-essential, but try and hold on to your muscle until such time as you can last out. That's the best I can do without knowing the industry and the detail. And of course, I can wish you all the very best.
Oh, those were the, I would say that maybe it's great points, gems of wisdom coming in. Thanks, Jamshed, on the startup part. The other question which people have asked, and this question is for Vikram. Vikram, the distributors may also come under pressure, several categories, maybe not the large one, but I'm hearing the auto dealers are coming under pressure. There is on the durable industry, I'm finding that people are coming back that because if the distributors fail, or let's say not able to stay until the lockdown, or let's say the recovery happens, there is a chance that the business is there, the consumer is there, but distributors or the partners not there to serve them. So what do you say on that? And how do you retain distributors in these tough times?
So I think, it's important for the companies to support their distributors right now. Already, in many sectors, distributors, there's a lot of capital exposure on these distributors of companies. And so the credit periods could be extended for this lockdown period. they may not charge any interest, and or maybe help them through this crisis, knowing that, finally they will have to depend on these distributors only down the line. And for that, it's very important to communicate with them on a very consistent basis in this phase when, all channels of communications are out. So you have a distributor meet with selected people who say represent certain geographies, who have ideas, and you talk to them, get their ideas, and see what the companies can help them with, particularly in terms of their cash flows. And as I said, what primarily you can help is give additional credits and not charge any interest for the duration of this lockdown, and help them with their inventories. So that is right now what companies can help these distributors with. But to get more details, you will need to communicate more with them, get their ideas, and right now I don't think any distributor is going to shift loyalty. So that's my feeling, because right now it's the time to stick to your loyal distributors, manufacturers, so that chain right now will remain loyal to each other in this time. So I don't see a reason why distributor right now should shift to competition. There's no reason why that should happen right now. So, but companies will need to support them through this crisis so that they come out winning in it.
Okay, understood. So this is on the distributor's side. There's another question which has come in, which is this is Manish Jan asking, should apparel retailers come up with online site ASAP?
Yes,
So Vikram answered that already.
There was another question which, I was just seeing Vikram Chatterjee's, e-commerce startup, in what should they do in current scenarios. So I already said, majority apparel retailers, they have tried their hands at online retail. They have not been very successful, but for sure they will now in this post-COVID be a bit more aggressive, and they will have their online store dedicated to their brand, multi-brand portal, as I said. So on the second piece, I think these startups right now need to focus on innovations and need to partner with the people who are innovating. So just to share with you, these big textile companies right now, they are coming up with finishes, which can make your fabrics and make your apparels viral resistant.
Oh.
So antibacterial was already there, and now they are aggressively working on this concept, and it will be maybe advertised also very soon. So, these kind of ideas, if the startups, they cannot do it on their own, but if they can partner with people, with big manufacturers who are already doing it, that will give a big boost to their consumer confidence that, okay, there's a product which is, viral resistant. I'm not going to catch virus if I wear that. So some sort of that innovation is going to be key. I'm considering that these startups don't have the backing of a strong financer, and they can't advertise heavily in this phase. So innovations will be key. They have to focus on innovations, on how they show themselves differently than the big e-com players who are primarily, working on discount models right now.
Got it. So innovation, collaboration with the ecosystem is the way forward.
Yeah.
And you say that barriers are going to be shattered.
Yes.
And that's because
there's an opportunity. Yeah.
Somebody was saying that during the time of crisis, they say that never let the crisis go waste. And that's the time you're indicating. Very well said, Vikram. Then I think we have covered most of the question. How to find the right partners? I mean, anything you can think about mechanism of finding that part. This is a hard big questions. So it's like finding your soulmate.
It's not that easy.
I hope you're not asking that question that how do you find your spouse? Okay, that we can't help. There are no matrimonial services.
He's saying no.
But nevertheless, I think the question goes to maybe Puneet. You want to answer? Maybe take a quick shot at it. If let's say partners.
I think coming back to that previous point of whether retail, brands, apparel brands, or any category for that matter should get into e-com and open a site of their own. I believe that e-com is a very different business with very different skill sets with a lot of capital involved. So rather than, let's say, every brand thinking about doing a website of their own, it may be a better idea to partner with these e-com players, let's say the Flipkarts of the world, the Mantras of the world, so on and so forth. So I think for a lot of the brands who are right now, let's say, struggling, or retailers who are struggling, with of course the retail market, and they want to capitalize on this opportunity which exists online, I think a good way of going about it would be to partner with these larger players on their platform and start retailing through that. I think that would be a good quick fix. In terms of how do you choose your partner, I don't know. It all depends what we are looking at. It all depends on the segment that we are playing. I personally believe that the times that we are going through, trust is going to be the most important connector, whether it is from a business to a business partner point of view, or whether it is from a business to a consumer point of view. Right. One thing that we are deliberating very strongly on our business today is that when things start to open up, the most important thing for us, at that store level, is also going to be to re-imbibe that trust in our consumer, to say that, look, in our store, in our premises, you are in safe hands. We have taken all the precautions necessary to make sure that the health and the hygiene precautions are taken care of. And I think that is going to be one of the most important customer engagement aspects at the retail level once things open up. I believe that stores will have a lot of POPs, lot of in-store communication around this to imbibe that trust. So coming back to that relationship point, I think whether it is a B2B or a B2C, I think that trust factor is going to be the most important for everyone to.
Going to be the new currency.
Yeah.
In the future.
Trust and kindness, both.
Kindness. Okay. Are we talking business or philosophy? Sorry, guys, we are still on business. We're talking maybe a path which is merging somewhere where the business and the philosophy or spirituality are coming together, and that's the way going forward. Interesting, very interesting. Just one question, last question, which we are going to ask to Jamshed. Jamshed, you have a last question, which is, what's your view on the impact of product portfolio being maintained by retailers going forward? I mean, let's say you have a large chain, hypermarket, carries maybe 30, 40, 50 categories. Do you think there is a rationalization taking place?
No, I don't think that there will be category rationalization. The categories will be the categories. I think within categories, certain products will gain eminence. One is products which the more the customer gets knowledge of the product, the more the product will succeed. I think customers will no longer accept products merely on face value. They will want to know for a fact that these products are made in a responsible fashion, contain the ingredients that they say they contain, and contain ingredients that are good for them. So I do see that consciousness coming amongst customers. What is important is how cleverly do brands and retailers leverage that. And modern retailers should leverage that, because modern retail can give that to customers a lot more than the Kirana store can. And I think if that card is played, certainly products within categories, certain kinds of products will shine more than certain other kinds of products. But I don't see a category shift taking place.
Okay. So what you're saying is almost it's like starting off new. Some brands cannot rest on their laurels, past laurels. Correct. It is the...
So Anil, I'll just add on to that. I think in the textile and apparel space, there will be a rationalization of the SKUs. Right now, the customers, they are spoiled for choice, and, you are offering them everything. So maybe for next 6-8 months, there will be a rationalization, and and finally, there are those products which are overlapping over each other, and just for different price points, you have different products. So rationalization will happen in that space in this category for sure. And the perennials, which were in summers, so generally the fashion, there are two types of categories, the perennial and the fashion. So perennial are your whites, the blues and the basics, which obviously will be continued. But the fashion side, I think, which generally, I think that portfolio will be a bit limited for the next season.
Got it. So you are expecting rationalization, maybe an extent of what percentage?
Just this next coming winter, yeah.
Okay. Got it. So what percentage of SKUs you think are going to be rationalized?
I think around 20-25% easily can be done. That's the kind of you're really spoiling the customers for choice. And, at the end of the day, many SKUs don't even end up selling. But still, you are, just to fill the spaces you are doing it.
I know that that's a cliche statement that 6% of SKUs gives you 70% of your sales.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's
so that is something which comes into play. Good. I think we are there. We have finished, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us. I just have a few points to summary before we end up. We will be sending a document which contains all the insights. You don't have to worry about that part. We have already made notes of that. So the key takeaways which are coming up are very, very heartening. And I want maybe I'll take a minute or so to summarize them for you while you go away. There are 60 of you still left. So number one is that there's no reason of saying that customers will not come back. They are going to come back. Sometimes in August, September, we are expecting a reasonable amount of recovery. So stay there, hold your guns till maybe another 6 months or so. Conserve your cash, to Jamshed's point. The consumers are going to be more conscious than before. The brand's loyalty may not be, or laurels may not be 100% workable. Don't take it for, assume that my brand has survived for 40 years, so it will do the wonders. I think you have to still communicate to them. Stand by them. Digital for sure is going to increase. So build your digital channel supply chain, irrespective of the category. The toughest category to sell on digital is perhaps fabric. And Vikram said he is going to go gongo on digital. So you can take that. Another point was end of season sale. You may not see those kind of crowds jumping into the stores. There's social distancing, which is going to be the norm. And despite the fact that you are loaded with inventory, so the channel of end of season might be slightly different because people will have to offload their inventory. Another sort of a headline item was, which Vikram came out with. He says that the disparity between leaders and the followers may come down. And there is a chance that I'm exaggerating here for sake of exaggeration, that the followers can topple the leaders. So come on, guys, that's an opportunity being created. Puneet's point was that mall revenue sharing model will come into play. Marketplace for mall is also coming. The government role is playing an important role. And therefore, going forward, there is more collaboration likely to take place between the ecosystem players. Ladies and gentlemen, to end, there is a gem of wisdom which came from all the speakers, which I don't want to leave it unheard once again. It's that going forward, the purpose-driven leadership is the way forward. The opportunism and non-sustainable way are perhaps the things of the past. That's what I'm hoping as well. Everybody's hoping that we drift toward that direction. So Mother Nature is also equally happy. Our pockets are happy. Yeah. Mother Nature is equally happy. And so with that note, I would like to convey my thanks once again to the audience. They have been very, very patient. They've been very active. And a huge thanks to our panelists who have taken out a significant amount of time in writing down, literally writing down their answers. This has been very well thought out panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And just one last thing. There is a form which we are submitting for your kind feedback. Kindly fill it up. It's going to appear now. For that, I need to log out. Unfortunately, I can't see it. I will log out, but you guys, please help us get as much feedback as possible. Thank you so much and see you on 24th.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.